So, let's get started. Firstly, welcome to Curiosity's first platform update webinar of 2025. We've got some awesome updates to show off today. Let me introduce you all to the incredible Lina Deatherage. Lina is a technical analyst here at Curiosity. She has worked with some of the world's largest enterprises to embed quality test data throughout their software delivery lifecycle with the help of AI and modeling. In this session, Lina will discuss the latest trends, use cases, and feature releases, along with Curiosity's future vision and ongoing development projects. Lina, if you want to say hi.
Hello, everyone. Looking forward to giving today's demo.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for joining, Lina. And cool. So let's get into it. Since it's our first platform update webinar of 2025, I wanted to discuss our platform approach and how we aim to deliver the new standard in enterprise test data management. At Curiosity, we aim to empower enterprises to thrive by overcoming the test data challenges that are holding them back. And those challenges are often complexity, legacy, and scale. Building on decades of our experience in our team, we help unblock test data delivery, and our pioneering approach helps transform how enterprises manage data. So we focus on key productivity blockers in test data discovery, delivery, compliance, and quality. So, really, we have a platform, and our AI-powered platform really hopes to empower your teams by, simplifying those complex application landscapes and providing you with the confidence and clarity at every step of your data journey. To put it simply, our platform is hopefully a one-stop shop for all test data management needs. And then kind of looping back into our approach, right? So, to really navigate the increasingly complex application landscapes that we are seeing today, organizations must have full control, visibility, and understanding of their data across the whole enterprise, right? This is why we have this three-step approach to test data management and our platform development. So this approach, right, discover, act, monitor, right? Through this approach, we help enterprises gain a better understanding of their data, structures, sensitivity, and relationships, while also enabling you to intelligently execute on actionable insights and intuitively monitor your whole data ecosystem. And we believe that the Discover, Act, Monitor approach and framework is critical for test data management teams. Now, Lina will cover this approach and some of its capabilities in her demo. But before that, I'd like to go over them and explain what each part really consists of, right? So the Discover stage provides you with full observability of your application landscape. The capabilities here allow you to automate the mapping and analysis of your entire data ecosystem in real time, giving you a deep understanding of your data, structures, schemas, and dependencies that exist. With AI-driven insights and understanding, hopefully teams are empowered to make more informed decisions, centralize new and existing processes, and proactively identify and remediate risks before they become issues. So with enterprise test data, hopefully you can get a clear and accurate view of your current application landscape and be equipped with actionable insights to help you optimize your test data management journey. So that's everything to do with Discover. And discovery leads directly into the Act phase. The Act stage, or the phase in our framework, really centers around ensuring the right data is securely delivered to the right teams in your organization exactly when they need it. Our Act capabilities enable teams to efficiently handle billions of rows of data, self-service provisioning, data masking, and advanced data generation capabilities to create realistic, compliant, and high-quality test data on demand. Our unique visual models also embedded with business logic, allow you to cover all the data combinations and ensure comprehensive, realistic, and compliant test data coverage across your whole delivery ecosystem. So basically, with enterprise test data, once you've done discovery, you can act on that and utilize a range of utilities to streamline and automate workflows, centralize data, simplify your application landscape, and improve data availability. So that's everything. And finally, once you've discovered acts, you can monitor and stay ahead of change, right? So with the monitoring aspect of our platform, you can ensure that a proactive rather than a reactive approach to test data management, preventing issues before they escalate. So our monitor capabilities in enterprise test data provide real-time visibility into your data and how it's changing, allowing cross-team collaboration, seamless parallel working, and unlocking operational efficiencies. So with AI-powered monitoring, proactive tracking, and AI-driven insights, we can empower your teams to anticipate risks, optimize processes, and ensure enterprise-wide data compliance. So by leveraging all of this, we've built a complete TDM platform, basically, right? And so you'll see in the slide now, we have a lot of capabilities, right, for each stage, but they're all interlinked, right? You go from discovery to action to monitoring, but then monitoring and insights will define how you then carry out other actions, right? So it's like an infinite loop. And it's all done in one platform, right? So hopefully all of this is to say that enterprise test data is a complete platform. It provides a full list of capabilities in each stage, and we offer an integrated, secure, and intuitive tool to simplify complex application landscapes and overcome test data challenges. But now, I've done a lot of talking here, but I think you're really just want to see it in action. And this is why we have Lina here. And she's, hopefully going to now talk about a bit more the technical side of discovery, monitoring, and ACT.
Great. Thank you so much, Mantis. So we'll go through 2 quick slides, just a little bit more in detail from a technical perspective of what discovery and monitoring look like. So after that, we'll go ahead and dive straight into the demo, but I just wanted to give a bit of context before we hop inside of the tool. So like Mantis was saying, discovery is the initial stage we want to take before we do any sort of data activity. So whether that's synthetic data generation or data masking, we'll need to know what our source data is like first, and that's oftentimes a big challenge for test data teams. So what we like to do with our discoveries, we want to make it a one-time effort. So if you've set up a definition and a database connection inside of the tool, that will essentially be the one time we need to connect. And then from there, we can actually start to monitor and automate all of the scanning, profiling, categorization of data, and that's something that we'll cover today. And the 3 pieces that really are part of both discovery and monitoring, you can kind of think of them as the first step and then the third step that loop back into each other. There's going to be 3 main components to it. The first is our dashboard, which contains all of our data insights. And then we'll also have our data insight tasks, which we can customize and essentially create unique automated routines for. And then lastly, we're going to have AI-driven insights. So this is going to be the AI going through and actually cataloging your data. So if you've ever done a profiling activity inside of the tool, it's very similar to that, except for instead of setting it up via our category list, it's going to be done using AI. So we'll cover all 3 of those components inside of the tool today. And Mantis, if we can go to the next slide, please. All right, perfect. And so the whole idea behind monitoring is to essentially continuously do discovery and also to report on it. So this is really helpful if you have multiple key stakeholders and you just want to automatically be notified of important changes. So we'll go over exactly how that can be sent out to stakeholders via email. So that's going to be more of the proactive alert section. And because of that, it'll be easier to enforce policies. So we do automatically review processes against critical standards such as GDPR and CCPA, but we can customize that in order to meet your needs. And lastly, we are going to do the AI-driven insights one more time here. It's going to be continuously done in the background and automatically updating your definition every single time there's a change within your schema. So that's in a bit more detail about how exactly we're going to be implementing the framework today. But with that, I'll go ahead and just share my screen here. And we'll hop on over to the platform. All right, so hopefully that is coming through now.
Yeah,
So Perfect. Thank you, Mantis. So up at the top here, we have our 3-step framework for Discover, Act, and Monitor. So we'll be spending most of our time in Discover and Monitor today. But just to start off, we're going to be looking at our dashboard. So just a quick side note, this is automatically available as of the January release, but if you're on a previous release on an on-premise version, you will need to toggle it to enable in order to be able to see that. And that's just underneath Workspace and Feature toggle here. But if you're on a latest release, you'll be able to see the screen right away. So once we have our dashboard open, we have a couple of different cards here that contain different information. So up on the left-hand side, we have our connection overview. So this is details about what our database is like now based off of our most recent scan. So this is a simulation of a bank database, and you can see that we have a total of 4 scans, 21 tables and 160 columns. And then over to the middle here is a summary of the data activities we have. So we have 4 different kinds of data activities linked to our connection. So these are going to be data generations and masking routines we have. And we can also see the total number of rows we've generated into this database. All right, and then on the right-hand side here, we have an overview of our relationships. So this is going to show the total number of foreign keys that the database actually enforces, as well as soft keys, which are those implied relationships from a business perspective. And scrolling down a bit here, the next card we have is our data compliance, which will show how compliant our data is. So we can see we have the number of column instances where PII, PCI, PHI, and CBI are contained, as well as the ratio of that to our non-sensitive data. And we can also see how much of our data in general is not classified and therefore at a risk of containing sensitive data. And similarly to compliance, we also have the option to validate our rules. So this card here is going to show the number of rules to make sure that the data inside of the database essentially makes sense. So for example, it's going to check for invalid user definition soft links, invalid data inside of the database, and also any foreign keys that could be missing inside of our database. And moving along here, we do have a section for our data growth. So you'll see here, we only have the history as of today, but as you generate more and more data, you'll be able to visually track that row count over time. And we'll also have the version history of each scan of the database. So we'll be actually taking a look at this a little closer once we do our monitoring portion. We're going to be adding a table into the database today. But you can see here that we have the record of when tables were added, changed, or removed for each version of the database we have scanned. And lastly, we have this section here. It's broken up into 2 parts. So these 2 cards here are going to show your top 10 largest tables as well as smallest tables by row counts. And these are dynamically reflect what kind of data you're inserting into the database. And then these 3 cards here are going to be our AI suggestions. So for example, this card here is going to suggest some SQL queries that we might want to run in order to look for certain relationships or bring up certain kinds of data. So this is going to dynamically reflect what's inside of your given database. And I'll also just suggest a couple of tables that might be interesting for you to consider as part of your data routines. And likewise for here, it's just going to suggest how you might want to group your data. So this is the first view we have, which is just our dashboard. It's meant to be an overview, and we'll continuously use this as part of the monitoring section as well. But I just want to go one level deeper in terms of how we can actually craft up a routine that will automatically execute. So we'll go ahead and switch over inside of our definition here for this bank. So here we are inside of our definition. And once we scroll past our scans, you'll now see a section called Data Insights. And these are all of the activities that I have that will automatically run depending on when I schedule it for. So we won't go through all of these here. A lot of them are self-explanatory, but I do just want to highlight a couple of ones that we could take a look into inside of the definition in a moment. So how I've built out this routine is essentially anytime I trigger a scan, which is ad hoc, It's going to then go through and do all of these remaining activities here. And then finally, it's going to send me an email result. So every time we make a change inside of our database, I can also schedule it to automatically trigger the scanning event. But for this one, it's going to be doing it ad hoc. So if we try to go ahead and create a new task here, it's going to ask us what our task name is. So we'll go ahead and keep it as the database scan. We'll click on next step, and then we can choose our execution type. So for example, let's say rather than having myself go through and choose when we want to run the scan, maybe we want it to be on a weekly schedule. So this time around, we can choose on schedule as the execution type, and we can change this to every week on a Sunday. And essentially, that's how we'll be able to build out all of the data insight activities here. A couple of interesting ones that I just think are generally helpful to have if you're building this out inside of your environment is to always start with the database scan, so we're continuously doing discovery. And if you do have AI enabled in your workspace, these two here are quite interesting. The first one is going to populate metadata for all of your tables and columns. So for each one of those, you're going to have a description, which is describing what kind of data it contains. And that's quite helpful if you have tables that are nondescript. So if you have a lot of large, so SAP is a classic example of that, where the table names aren't very informative, this would be a very helpful data insight activity to add in. And another one that's interesting using the AI is PII scan. So this will automatically go and locate sensitive data based off of the AI rather than a formal scanning routine. So we can actually take a look at an example of that in a moment. And we have our suggested SQL queries, a couple of data groupings, and other options available as well. So with that, I'll just show an outcome of what this scan looks like. So we'll pop on over to our definition details here. And here we are inside of an auto-generated version. So this would be after we've made a change inside of the database and I triggered a scan. So all of this was created using the data insights. And you'll notice by each one of the tables, we either have a tag saying it's non-sensitive or it contains sensitive information. And if it does, it'll also profile what kind of information it contains. And I'll also do that inside for each one of the columns as well. And to the right here, you'll notice that there's descriptions that are populated for each one of these tables. So this was all generated by AI. If we scroll down to the bottom here, we have a couple of examples of tables with nondescript names, and these will also have descriptions allocated to them as well. And back up at the accounts table we just opened, here's the view inside of how we similarly applied those tags and the description using AI as well. So that covers all of the features we have for the discovery portion. So once we've really set up our definition, we've classified our data, we're now ready to move into the act phase. And this will really be whatever you would like it to be in terms of the actual activity. So for today, I'm just going to do one activity. And in this one here, we're just going to generate and create a new table inside of our database. So I'll go ahead and open up our execution form, set it to connect up to our bank, and we'll give this new table a name. So I'll call it webinar attendees. And we'll go ahead and execute that. And as that executes and completes, it's going to insert that table inside of our database. And we're really ready at that stage to go back into the monitoring section. So we'll go navigate over to monitoring now. So we're back inside of the data insights screen that we were focusing on earlier. And since we have a change inside of the database, let's maybe pretend that it's a Friday and I'm going to go ahead and run the scan as weekly scheduled. And I'm just going to go ahead and execute that now. And as this is executing, it's going to go through every single one of these that are set up to be the execution type of after a scan. So we'll just give this a moment to run. And ultimately, we'll see another scan populate here. And we'll be able to go back inside of the dashboard and see how it made some changes. And just while this runs, in terms of setting this up, if you already have a Curiosity contact that's a solutions engineer, we'll be reaching out shortly in order to help you set this up and talk to you about your exact needs. But I would recommend just taking a look at the features yourself first and seeing if there's any specific data activities that would be interesting to link up to this and to set up the data insights for. So our job just finished running there. So if we give a quick refresh, you'll see that we have a new scan. So we have 5 scans now for that Acme Bank connection. And we also have a total of 22 tables. So that would be version number 10, which we can now see inside of our dashboard. And we can also have this sent out as an email report alternatively. So this screen that you're seeing here would be sent via email to whoever you would specify inside of the data insights. And essentially from there, we'll just keep repeating this process. And we would love for this to be a very proactive process where it's going to help you to make more informed data decisions and also decide if there's maybe some key areas that you need to enforce, and also identify any gaps where perhaps you need to make a data activity for. So for example, maybe a lot of people are manually inserting data inside of the database, but ideally we would want everyone to go through our specific synthetic data generation routine. So this way would be a great way to actually monitor that and be able to actively catch and course correct any types of changes that are made into the database that are significant. So I hope that was an insightful demo for everyone. I believe, Mantis, we have a couple of slides just on the product roadmap that we can briefly go over, and then we'll switch on over to the Q&A.
Yeah.
Great. Perfect. So we have quite a few exciting things coming up. I will be sending a copy of the slide deck out after the webinar, but maybe a few things to just point out here is we are doing quite a bit of work on the new pipelines feature. So this is a really great way to connect up all of your different data activities to one another, and really essentially it's an RPA tool inside of the ETD functionality. So please keep an eye out on that. We'll also be working on simplifying our search and reserve or find and reserve activity. So you'll see updates with that shortly. Some other things to keep an eye out for are continuing updates on the dashboarding. So we'll be adding more onto the discovery and monitoring shortly as well, and up until Q3. And of course, we'll always be working on our AI features. We have quite a bit scheduled for Q2 and Q3, as you can see here. In terms of release highlights, we have quite a bit that was put into the product over the winter season. So you'll shortly see a knowledge base article with full length notes on each one of these. But a couple of ones that I would just point out is if you're using the data painter for synthetic data generation, you'll see some improvements, including multi-line breaks included in there. And we're also having some performance improvements for scanning as well as masking. So that would be the points 5 and 6. So the backend work for drill and cTunnel will enable you to do masking and scanning a lot faster, and also across different databases. And I think that might be our last slide here.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Lina. So yeah, I do believe there are a couple of questions that I would love to get covered. We are running short on time, but Lina, we do have a question for you here. Well, what's the best practice to have when doing profiling? Is it on QA environments, which always change due to the progress and development, or only after copying data from production to QA? So,
sure. So that depends a little bit on what your process is. It sounds like if you're copying data over, you'd most likely be subsetting it in some way and then masking it. So we would like to take the subset copy. So whichever copy you would ultimately be using to mask, we would suggest doing there. In terms of the data insights, it's really helpful for things such as synthetic data generation, or when you're making data from scratch, in that case, you would want to link it up to the QA version where all of the most relevant changes are being made. So it kind of depends on what you'd like to do. In general, I would say for masking, we would want to get that equivalent of a golden copy. And for synth data gen, we would want to work on the primary environment that has the most recent updates.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Lina. I think that's a really good answer. But yeah, we are running short on time. So I think it's time, we start to wrap it up. So I'd just like to say thank you again for everyone who joined and viewed our product platform update webinar. Thank you for the questions, and to Lina for the great presentation today, a great demo. If you'd like to carry on the conversation following the update, there are a number of ways you can get in touch. If you'd like to learn more, still have questions, please do get in touch with Lina via email or on her LinkedIn. If you know a colleague who might be interested in future platform update webinars, then please share the invite or share the recording with them. And yeah, finally, please follow Curiosity on LinkedIn or visit our website to stay up to date with our latest updates and platform information. Additionally, all of these links and the slides and the recording will be shared in a follow-up email with everyone tomorrow. And finally, I'd like to shout out a little webinar that we are holding next month, featuring the one and only Lina and Heath Price, our chairman and co-founder. We'll be going live on the 16th of April to show you how you can gain complete visibility of your test data with end-to-end discovery, monitoring, and AI insight capabilities from our platform. So I think, please visit our website to register for the webinar. And finally, I think all that remains to be said is thank you to everyone who's joining, and a massive thank you for Lina for presenting. And see you in our next platform update webinar. Cheers, everyone. Bye.
Thank you very much, everyone.